welcome to Right Dialogues. Today is our 64th episode, and we are going to discuss today the Indian Ocean region, a very important facet of national security. And to discuss this, we have with us Air Commodore SP Singh. Please welcome Air Commodore SP Singh to our show.
Jayan sir,
Thank you.
thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Jai Hind, and thank you so very much for joining us. I would like to apprise the audience about Air Commodore SP Singh since he's coming first time on our show. He actually he's a veteran. He commanded the Su-30 Air Base. He was the principal director air defense at the air headquarters. He was also the Air One at Western Command. Um, most of you must be wondering what are these appointments. These appointments are basically appointments which control the overall operations first in the capacity as air defense, and the second one of the entire air operations of the Western Command, which is essentially looking partially at looking at our Western neighbor, and so therefore he's held very important appointments. He has also been part of the strategic force. He was also with the NSC, so he's been in big places, right from the strategic level down to the operational level. So we are very lucky to discuss a very important strategic discussion today. As you all are aware, Indian Ocean region is very, very important as far as India is concerned. And I have put a map of Indian Ocean region in a reverse fashion. उल्टा है ये मैप पूरा साउथ टू नॉर्थ हो गया है इंस्टेड ऑफ नॉर्थ टू साउथ. उसका रीजन यही था कि वी वांट दैट the Indian Ocean region now requires a new perspective, an out of box thinking to deal with Indian Ocean region. We have always been confined to the threats along our land borders, so our thinking is essentially oriented towards that. All of you are aware, one third of the world population lives in the Indian Ocean region. Half of the world trade passes through the IOR, of which 70% of the trade is of countries other than the IOR. That is also very, very important because of so many countries having interest in IOR, the level of interest in IOR is very huge, very colossal. That gives a challenge for us as far as security is concerned. There are a number of maritime choke points, which I'm sure SP will deal with that. Locks are there, number of locks are there. In fact, if you see the map, satellite image of the ships moving through the IOR and Malacca Strait, you will be amazed. There is so much of movement that you will feel कि ये आपस में टकराते क्यों नहीं हैं. Of course, because of the map, they look like that. They look like swarms, you know. That's the kind. India occupies a pivotal position in this. Why? It's in the center of the IOR. To the right and to the left, it has vast seas and to the south. So what does that give India? 95% of our trade by volume goes through Indian Ocean region. Imagine, just 5% is overland. If you talk in terms of value, 68% of our trade is through the Indian Ocean region. Imagine the importance for India. And out of this, bulk of it is for energy, which actually runs the country. Then you have the EZ, 2.37 million square kilometer, huge. Employment to 1.4 crore Indians in the fishing industry. Long maritime boundary and islands straightaway poses military threats to. Earlier we always talked about Indian Ocean region as an area where we have to secure our interests. Now it is multiple. Secure our interest as also prevent threats coming to India. That's very important. Why it is that I'm sure Air Commodore SP will discuss about that. Non-traditional threats, they've always remained piracy, smuggling, human trafficking, etc. Plan presence, I'll just show you a map, how important this plan presence is, and the collusive threat because of the underwater threat. If you combine the submarines of Pakistan and China, it is a very, very viable threat as far as India is concerned. Look at the presence of various big powers as far as the IOR is concerned. You have US, China, and India having bases spread all over. But what is important is the latest development in Maldives. I'm sure SP will throw some light on that because of the change of government. It's a pro-China government in Maldives, and therefore, whatever India was having in Maldives, he has given orders that I will have no presence of Indians on the Maldive Island. That's a very, very major statement coming from a head of a state which was supposedly a country closer to India than to China. With that, I hand over to you, SP. It's all yours. I'm adding your slides to the show. You can start sharing it. Okay. And if you have any issues,
Yes.
if you have any issues, I'll start with mine only. I have all
Right.
your slides. You're not
Okay.
able to do it. You're not
No,
able
I
to
am
do
not
it.
able to see. I am not able to see my slides.
Okay. So
Yes.
we will move to yours.
Yes.
Go ahead. The
Absolutely.
floor is yours.
Yes. Thank you so much, General Dushyant sir, and the Strive for giving me this opportunity to interact with the August audience. Well read, well researched, and very knowledgeable audience today. I think I'm privileged and honored to get this stage, and I hope I'm able to do much justice to this. First of all, let me set the ground rules, sir. What I want to bring out to the audience is, our viewers is, that most of the information actually people are aware of. What I'm going to concentrate is on the analysis are as to what plan and PLAF are capable of, how much of force can be brought into the IR, and what time frame. This is what is important to us. Because as of now, what the capability they have, what the commitments the plan and PLAF have in the South China Sea and Indian Pacific Ocean, that taken into account, what are their own resources, how much will it come to it, when will it come, that is of a sense to us, so we can understand the threat. Then I will come to what kind of the advantage we have over the Indian Ocean region, like journals have brought out, that is pivot to India. There is no doubt we dominate this oceanic area, both by Navy as well as the air, and this is what I'm going to bring about. So there are certain lessons to be learned, certain preparatory things to be learned, and the government has already taken certain steps to prepare to counter. We must understand that our country is not expansionist. We are going to defend our resources, defend our area. So our concentration is more on to defending our area from this threat which is going to loom on us. So with this, we'll go to the next slide, sir. May I request, sir?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not able
move it.
to. Yes. You all are aware of it. Everybody is aware of it. Audience which are here. The northern side, the kind of neighbors we have, both nuclear capable neighbor, both on north and east. And the area what I want to highlight is the land borders have been covering almost about 3,000 kilometers plus 200, 300 kilometers. So we had two borders to look after, both about similar size. Now with the threat becoming from the oceanic side, look at the border. It is almost double. So as of the India's position now becomes is we have all four sides to look after with 3,000, almost 3,000 kilometers on each side. In addition, we have the two island chains, one in the Arabian Sea, one in the Bay of Bengal, that is Andaman Nicobar, and the Lakshadweep. So this whole area, along with the exclusive economy zone that General Sir mentioned about, this becomes the responsibility of India to defend our resources. Next slide. Okay, it covers generally 20% Asia. I have marked four places which are the main choke points, and main issue is that both for China and India, this oceanic route energy dependency is the most critical, and that is becoming the importance of the Indian Ocean for both these nations, and that is where the contest lies. More than 90% of energy for both countries by volume also flows through this zone. The next slide. There are very important choke points, four of them, but two which matter most to us is the Strait of Hormuz from the energy where the flow starts, and the Strait of Malacca where the energy flow now goes towards the China and the eastern countries, everybody else. Here I must mention a very important portfolio which fact that which will come in the subsequent slides is that all these shipping lines, like journalists have brought out, there are millions of ships crossing, and you can see them as swarms on the map. And all of them, for their entire logistics and the economy, are dependent on the countries across the Strait of Malacca. there is no stopping for them en route. And this is the case which the Indian government has very, very clearly understood, analyzed, and we are now doing our port developments so that we can have large number of shipping here, and that is what gives us the advantage against the China. We'll talk about it later. So Strait of Malacca obviously is a major worry for China, mostly because of the US. Now this is the same slide. It is two things which is showing for all of you. One is the kind of, yes, the main is rebalance towards the Asia, which is done by the US. And this is the biggest worry for China. Because the US forces till now were restricting themselves to the Pacific as well as the Atlantic and well beyond. There was nothing, no presence much in the Indian Ocean region, as there was no major threat developing in this zone. And with the China now pushing its forces towards west, the US is also obviously has started rebalancing. Now look at this volume. In the Strait of Hormuz, about 17 million barrels per day go through. And same is with the Strait of Malacca. Almost 152 million barrels pass through this. Now this is the kind of energy which is passing through these zones. And that's what the choke points we are going to dominate and we require. There are a large number of ports that are shown here, which are dominated by China, India, US naval forces, and other countries. Now, if you see, they are equally spaced, and large amount of them are from the US. China has got a huge presence, which I'll talk about a little later, and this is what we have to counter. All these bases, as of today, please understand, they are only for logistics. Military presence is very, very limited, except in the Djibouti and some part in the Godar port. Nothing much, no military presence much is there, and how much those countries will allow military presence during any skirmish is anybody's guess. So that we'll talk about later as we go by. Now, this is a very important thing to understand how China has developed its plan into the various oceans. The first chain of island that you see in the red dotted line was to stem the freedom of China. So they have controlled everything from East China Sea to South China Sea. Island chain was there when they developed the island chain so as to have the military presence now. This is where all the island, most of the island nations, I'll show you later, that they have done their military presence in these zones and to dominate Taiwan. And that's what they were worried about, the US forces. As the time passed, they extended this island chain to the second chain, which is now covering from Yokosuka of Germany, that is the presence of the US forces, to Guam and down. So you see here, all the US bases in the Japan and downwards to South Korea, everything gets covered. So China has, in a very, very planned manner, has covered their own fleet headquarters to dominate these zones. And this has been the major concern for the US forces as well as the world. Next slide. The China didn't stop here. You see the inner two red lines, which is the first island chain, second island chain up to Guam. The third island chain they have done is towards Pacific Ocean. Now, this is what is important to understand for us. The China's main focus concern is towards the Pacific Ocean expansion, more towards Pacific Ocean. And that's how you see first, second, third chain, because they perceive the major threat from US forces. And that is where the main concentration has been towards the thing. Beyond that, now they come to our, the dotted lines are, which is fourth and fifth, which is next to India, starting from Godar, going down up to Diego Garcia, and this is the fourth chain. And fifth chain is towards the Djibouti, which they are developing. Now, this China is doing it.
Air Commodore SP Singh, you have now given a new perspective that the Chinese are now actually looking far beyond the second island chain, because
Absolutely.
we have always been talking about the first island chain and second island chain,
Yes.
but the perspective that they are going to go closer to the US port of Hawaii, etc.,
Absolutely.
and on this side beyond Maldives to Diego Garcia and up to the eastern
Absolutely.
coast, I
Yes.
think there is a cause of worry for the whole world, not only India.
Absolutely, absolutely. And see, China, sir, wants to become a superpower and challenge the superpower status of USA. So the major concern, major focus, if you see Chinese white papers and Chinese articles, Chinese military papers that you read, are concentrating on this. Actually, their understanding is that when we cover the US, the India automatically gets covered. It is something like that. Like when we say we cover China, Pakistan automatically gets covered. It's something like that. So in the same notion, and they have a larger perspective. Now, this is a very important slide, sir, for all our viewers to attend, understand. at what rate this China moves to make its military bases operational. This is important. And that is what the cause of worry for India. In 2014, in the island chain, there's Pasa Island, they took over Duncan Island in the South China Sea. And 2nd April, they took over. By 17 March next year, there is less than 1 year, they already had reclaimed huge amount of land. This is shown in the little pinkish color. Now, by 2017, another 2 years, they already had the airbase ready with the landfill, new buildings, everything else. And by 2020, that is within 6 years from taking over the island to reaching there, they already operated JF-17s. Full squadron of JF-17 operating there. This is the rate at which China has moved in the South China Sea and the Pacific. Yes, this rate is not yet seen in the Indian Ocean region and the chain island that we see, that is what we call a string of pearls around us. But China is capable of it, and this is what should be a worry. And any movement that we see, that should start worrying us. This is where our major threat lies.
This is very important for the viewers to understand. मैं थोड़ा हिंदी में बता देता हूँ कि हमारे काफी viewers हिंदी में भी हैं. देखिए इन्होंने क्या किया, आइलैंड को लिया है, उसको बड़ा किया है, उसके ऊपर मिलिट्री फैसिलिटी भी लगा दी है ताकि साउथ चाइना सी का जो सी लेन्स ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन है उसको डोमिनेट करें और अपना इकोनॉमिक जोन जो और आगे बढ़ा दें. तो वो बोलेंगे कि ये तो क्लेम हमारा है, ये इलाका हमारा है, अगला आइलैंड भी हमारा है. तो ये एक एक्सपेंशनिस्ट पॉलिसी उन्होंने अडॉप्ट की, जैसे वो हमारे लैंड बॉर्डर्स पे कर रहे थे, आज वो सी पर भी कर रहे हैं. वी हैव टू बी वेरी केयरफुल. या गो अहेड, आई स्विच ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट स्लाइड.
Yes, next. Now I come to the thing, study landscape in IUR. How this similar now with this analogy that China is doing. Now look at this. You see the dark blue color line, which is the sea lanes of communication energy route, going right from Oman, Arabian Sea down up to the South China Sea. Now to dominate this, because China knows India is dominated right in the center. So India will dominate this both with naval power and air power. So to counter this, China has developed a huge chain of islands. You look at this, starting from Hong Kong, Cambodia, going up to Myanmar, and then down to Sri Lanka and Gwadar Port and Djibouti. Now this is the entire island chain developed well inside the energy route. This is what is to be understood. So China has very, very strategically developed. It is not bothered about the islands outside the energy route, but inside of it, which is governing China. That is what is accounted for. And that is where our challenges lie in the future. This is the main thing to be seen from this. Now I come to the little bit of Indo-China military balance, because that is the main thing to understand. The next. Now I am covering, there are 3 theaters of China, because they are in the theater command, as to how these theaters will work and what is the kind of forces they have. Now look at this Western theater. Till now we have been talking about China's Western theater command, because we have been talking about the land skirmishes and kind of land threat, land and air threat. So entire, you see various bases are shown. Some of them are the missile bases, some of them are the army bases, and most of them are the air bases. Now the kind of forces that are concentrated here for a land-air warfare is huge. Massive forces are concentrated because China knows that it has to tackle the Xinjiang region, that is Leh area, Leh Ladakh, and also Arunachal. So it has placed its forces accordingly, which are land and air centric. And there is obviously there is no naval element in this. Now we come to the new threat which is developing, IUR. China has got the 2 major fronts to handle. One I just covered, the US in the eastern side, which is supporting Japan, South Korea, and of course Taiwan, which is the major concern for China. So look at this eastern theater, which is the northern portion of the Chinese forces, naval forces. All blue are in Navy, are shown in the north. Most of them you will see are closer to the Taiwan region and north of it. So entire forces are going to be concentrated in naval forces there. So almost as of present, almost about 60 to 70% naval forces are in this zone. That is the eastern theater. And for them to come all the way down to Indian Ocean is a colossal logistical task. They have a huge logistical chain to support. So that is what is the major difficulty or challenge for China to have the naval presence in Indian Ocean region as of today, because the forces are locked in over this zone for the threat from the US forces which are there in the South China Sea and Pacific Ocean. So this is the thing, so how their forces are done. Now we come to next, southern theater. This is the portion which is likely to come towards the Indian Ocean. though at least 30 to 40% of will still say towards the guarding the South China Sea. And one more point I want to add here is the A2AD concept, which is the anti-access area denial forces, air defense forces, are all in this region, closer to the land and sea border. And this is where the China's strength lies. So China will find it very difficult to move its air force elements and naval elements from this zone also down to the Indian Ocean region. When we come to the strength of the thing, China, why they are going into increasing strength, we will talk about it later. So this, kindly keep this in mind when we go to the next slide. Now look at the plan, PLA Navy. PLA Navy has at least as of today more than 350 ships. Is the largest navy by number, but not by the tonnage, where the US is the largest. But look at the plan. They have aim of 460 ships in fleet by 2030. This is the rate, and they're building almost about 12 to 18 ships of different kinds per year. These are the frigates and all. Carriers, they plan to have 6 aircraft carrier group by 2035. And why this 6? As of today, they have 3. The third one is under trial. Their one has to be in the South China Sea. The second is, as I covered in the beginning, their island chains are progressing towards the Pacific, first, second, third. So their presence, more naval presence is required in the Western Pacific. That is the place where they concentrate now. So second carrier goes there. So the third carrier, if at all comes up, if no carrier is in the refit, that will come to the Indian Ocean. So they need to have catering for the servicing, refit, and repairs. They need to have minimum 6 aircraft carriers and to have at least one in the Indian Ocean. And that is how it will come. So the major force which can come as up to 2035, as per analysis, is only one carrier which is likely to come, which is too small or too less to show any kind of threat in this zone. Even if they put 2, the US presence or US forces in the Indian Ocean region and the Quad forces with the AUKUS also being added now, and Indian Ocean, IOR, Indian Navy itself having, there is going to be a major challenge to PLA Navy forces of strike carrier groups, at least up to 2035. This is the rate. So at least one CBG will be planned in the IOR, that is the carrier battle group. And the next generation PLA Navy carriers, it is a major drawback they have. They have all the catapult launch for the fighter aircraft from the thing. So they are now constructing on EMALS, which is the electromagnetic aircraft launch system. Now, with the, I just want to add here something for viewers. With the Russia-Ukraine war, the Russia now has become much closer to China, and this helps China to develop this EMALS. Earlier, they were getting the support even from the Germany, which has now stopped. But at least the Russia is capable, and this capability will get transferred to China. This is our worry. Though Russia is very careful not to give any major capability to China because they understand that it will be used against India. So Russia is also playing it very, very carefully. So they also understand this. So we hope that Russia doesn't give us this capability much faster. That's why the third carrier is still under trial. But if this comes up, this EMALS capability comes out, then they will be able to use J-31 fighters. That is the worry for the air action. And they will have planned air arm will now go up to about 500 aircraft. Though the carrier will come just about 1 or 2, so maximum about 75 per carrier if we take, about close to 150 fighters can come in the, but it's a floating island. It can be targeted. So its vulnerability is very, very high in the sea, both from submarines, underwater threats, as well as from the air. So this has to be kept in mind. Now we come to the PLA Air Force and PLA Navy air power. This is naval power we talked about. Now we talk about the air power combined. Both combined about will have 1,800 fighter aircraft, out of which 800 are 4th generation. But the good part for us is that out of the 1,000 fighter of the PLAF, which are earlier than 4th generation, they are all going to retire very soon. So the bulk of the fighters will be retiring very soon. So the major thrust will be 4th generation. Plan has got 500 aircraft, which are also closer to 3rd and 4th generation aircraft mostly. 5th generation fighter aircraft J-20, they have about 50 as of today, and J-31 is under development, which will also get on the carrier as I covered. Bombers, airborne warning system, airborne early warning control, and refuelers, they have sufficient. But as a last point of procedure, once again, There are out of the 3 carrier groups which will reach by 2026, they'll have 2 in South China Sea and only 1 in Iowa. This is the combination we have. And next is, what is India's position in Indo-Pacific? Now this we are going to, India is primary player in the Indo-Ocean region. There is a strategic profile outreach across the Indo-Ocean. Bay of Bengal acts as a regional fulcrum for us. We actually dominate this area, especially with the Andaman Nicobar Island. We'll have unparalleled advantage that I show you just now. Look East Act East policy is crucial for information. India is strong diplomatic relation in the region. We have a good relation with almost all the now regions, especially after G20, the way it has happened, including the Africa Union. Next slide. Now this, I just wanted to highlight very few things. If you remember, I talked about the energy routes and the ships holding position in Singapore and beyond for their refueling, for their logistic support. All these incentives which have been initiatives which have been taken by the government of India, there is IANS, Indian Ocean Naval Symposium. We have all the dialogue with all the countries, littoral countries or littoral nations in this Indo-Pacific region, and we are in contact with them. Indian Navy is going ahead with them, and we are building a huge support system with them. Sagarmala, as you all are aware, is to develop 28 ports across from west to east, which will give us an anchoring for all the energy ships which are transferred to this. And the India will not have the security growth, but also the economic growth with all this thing. So it's going to be a very exclusive thing for us. Mission Sagar, security and growth for all, is also a part of the Sagarmala in a larger way. And the AOIP, that is ASEAN Outlook on Indo-Pacific, and Indian Ocean Indo-Pacific Open Initiative. All these are together for the developing the naval strength in this zone, that we have the naval ports, we have the facilities of the naval economy, because economy is going to be a major player in this. The better the economy, the better is the military outreach. And this is what is going to happen. So now we come to the IAF and AFR. IAF, on the other, has got about 600 plus fighter aircraft, which are 300 plus fourth generation, and are moving very fast. Indian Navy had 20 plus fighter aircraft, that is MiG-29s, but they are now likely to change. With the now Rafale is likely to come for this, the game will change. We have sufficient AVAX and airborne early warning system. Refueling aircraft also be sufficient, but that limitation is they will mostly get locked towards the land warfare if it happens, because we are very careful, clear in the mind that China will not do only land or only sea. It will use both to pin us down. The major portion that we have 2 aircraft carriers, which are sufficient as of today to counter the expected Chinese deployment in this that I covered earlier. And we have the integrated air command control center, which will work like a A2AD, but China has the advantage in South China Sea. We have the same advantage in our zone. China, here I was mentioned, doesn't have the advantage of specialized air defense resources in the zone. So most of the air is vulnerable to our air defense systems, which are spread right up to Andaman Nicobar and dominate. They don't have this counter advantage. So what they will have is the only carrier based or the ship based air defense system, which can be countered very easily, either by the cyber or by the electronic means, that is software, or the CAD operation or DAD operations. That's it. Now India's dominance through air in the Indo-Pacific. Like we talked about Strait of Malacca. Similarly, on the other side, Strait of Hormuz from Jamnagar airfield. On the west, we can do that, or the airfields in the southwestern command of the Western Air Command. Here is a very specific example I have taken. Our Su-30s can reach this within about the time frame that is expected and dominate this air with our orbit over that. And large number of air force can be element can be brought to bear on this, while the Indian Navy is already there. Also, is the part of the carrier force can be positioned there. Next slide. I've just given 2 examples. Su-30 combat radius of action. In case from Tanjavur, that I showed you just now, without air to refueling is about 1500 kilometers, and with air to refueling, it will come to 2000, which will be dominate the entry from the Strait of Malacca. So the entry can be checked.
Air Commodore SP, I just want you to clarify. You are taking the radius of action from Tanjavur, but
Yes.
should you have the resources for Andaman Nicobar Island, then your
Yes.
reach would actually go to the various choke points which are
Absolutely.
even down south. You know
Yes, it
the
is. Next slide.
choke. So okay.
Next slide is that only, sir.
Okay.
Very well, sir. Absolutely, you appreciate it. Absolutely correctly, sir, with your knowledge and the experience you have. This is where, from Andaman Nicobar, we go to much larger zone. You look at, we'll dominate now beyond the state of Malacca up to the and down south. And this is with a single air-to-air refueling. The moment you have the refueler position, because there is no threat, air threat from the any PLA AF in this zone now, because our air defense is available, we can put two refuelers here and extend the range up to 3,500 kilometers. And the orbit time of the Su-30 can be here over the area of interest can be up to about 1.5 to 2 hours. And the number of Su-30s can be in chain to replace. So we can have 24-hour dominance, air dominance over this zone. Similarly, you can look at the other side. If I say from the western Kutch region, you can reach up to Strait of Hormuz from the Jamnagar airfield or Bhuj or Nalia airfield. The same analogy can be used. Next slide. Now the multi-domain operations will become critical in the Indian Ocean region. I must insist once again, Indian Navy will be the lead service in this. Various roles have been defined here, which is just quickly run through. Indian Navy will move the flotilla, create the maritime domain awareness. Coastal Guard will give the coastal defense. IAF will provide AD umbrella over AD, air defense identification zone, maritime strike deep into the sea using first run attack, and then use own island territories and of Quad for range. What we are planning now to do is coordinate with Quad. We are doing the air exercise with the Quad countries from their islands in the Indian Ocean region. And that is what the next thing which is happening. So we all get used to operating from those thing. And Quad countries obviously are going to be part of this support in this IUR. So that is the area of interest for them. So just kindly go ahead. Previous slides. And Indian Army for the ambassador force and special force will do. Defense Space Agency is now is preparing for entire satellite-based ISR in the IUR. As of the last year, we didn't have much coverage in the IUR. It was mostly concentrated towards the north and the east, our land borders. Now the entire assets movement has been in such a way with the ISRO that the DSA is now taking on this ISR inputs, which are very critical in this zone. It happened. Defense Cyber Agency is also going to do this offensive cyber operations. This is actually once again being led by Indian Navy only. They are much larger component of Indian Navy part of it. And just for the input from various other countries will take. Next slide. Now we come to multi-domain operation. What all will happen? So battle space management is going to be a major thing, which is on akin to A2AD, which I covered earlier, will require this, and we already have IACCS elements there. Air Commodore and Commander will command and control the air assets, and like we covered, what kind of operations can take place. Anti-shipping, anti-carrier air operation with the Su-30, BrahMos, and the Jaguar with Rudram. And now with Rafale coming in, Rafale once get this thing cleared for the BrahMos, you will find a huge amount of force will be there. We'll have much larger reach and much larger killing capability for the anti-shipping weapons. MUMT is the man-unmanned teaming, which is of the UAV and fight aircraft. With the LCA, it is under trial right now. That is the and this is soon going to be with the Su-30. So these trials are underway, and once they are established, they will also get deployed here. So both the aircrafts are air refuel capable, so they can have a long range. Next. Offensive counter-air operations will be much larger, and now look at this. We'll be targeting the adversary's island or coastal airfield, which the chain of island that China is developing. Since none of them will have the air defense, this is the main advantage as of now we have, and they are not able to bring any air defense over there because air defense require networking of all these sets, which is very, very far and not even talked about because it requires huge logistics to establish. And as of today, in the absence of the major air defense, we can now target all this coastal area of the China. Then ANC airbase will be used as a large logistics area also, and to take on any PLA Navy carrier groups. Australia's Coco Island, we have already done the trials. South Jakarta will be used as island of opportunity. Indian Air Force have already done the trials with them, with landing of our Su-30 aircrafts and C-130. C-130s have also landed there. Next is the Diego Garcia. Even for Diego Garcia, C-130 operations have already been done. Fighter operations have not yet been done. But there's a matter of time that we will be doing this. So you see the kind of planning that the IAF, Indian Navy, Indian Army, as well as even the countries, the government of India. So it's like a whole nation approach. The planning and is going on, as well as to build our capacity for this future operations to counter the China's any interference into IUR. Next. Defense of the flotilla, Indian Navy will remain primarily responsible for the assets at sea, but obviously there will be huge amount of coverage given by the air. So Su-30, LCA, Tejas and Rafale would be doing similarly, will sanitize the airspace. Beyond Malacca Strait and Gulf of Aden, as we spoke about, the General Sir was talking about. There will be use of LR-SAM, long range surface to air missiles, and MR-SAM of the Air Force will work in coordination. I already covered AWACS and AEWs will be there, but as of today, the amount of AWACS and AEW airborne warning systems, since they are limited in number, they may be committed more towards the western and eastern skirmishes which may be taking place. Regular continuous AWACS AEW coverage may not be available. That is where now the planning is to procure at least 6 more AWACS, and we expect that by 2030 we'll have 3 more, and by 2035 we'll have 6 more. And that is why we are parallelly countering China's development in different domains. Military strategy options for India, you can just quickly go through. I just want to mention one point. The Information Fusion Center for Indian Ocean region, developed by Navy, is working excellent. I think all of us must visit. There is a center in Delhi, Gurgaon, and I'll request officers to visit as whenever possible. What General Sir was talking about, the ships like swarms, you will see them there. It is as of now being portrayed as a peacetime civil movement, ship movement tracking, but military use is not defined, but it is there. We all understand.
I just want to tell the audience here that this center, what Air Commodore SP Singh is talking about, came about in an earnest manner after the Mumbai attack. Actually, it
Right.
is the overall plan. Once the Mumbai attack had happened, then there was a analysis done. Why people were able to break through our maritime defense and come to Mumbai and attack. So after that, this particular system, so it has got multiple uses, and like he said, whole of a nation approach will be seen here in this particular command and control center. It's a wonderful initiative which has been taken that has given strength to our maritime defense. Yeah.
And very important next slide for our preparation, that is for the future. Just say any challenge by China in the IUR region, we have increased in number of joint exercises, air and naval, with the Quad countries, Quad plus members, as well as ASEAN members. So you see, huge number of nations are now doing regular exercise with us, and this is what gives us the advantage, which is China is not able to do any of this. So this is the advantage. We have large number of nations on our side now supporting us. So this is how you start countering China's progress. Why I'm talking about this is because China, when it moves its naval forces to Indian Ocean region, it has a huge logistics chain for fuel, for supply, regular supply, weapons, arms, everything. And this can be interdicted at any stage, right from Japan, South Korea to Singapore, to right up to entering Indian Ocean region and Malacca, everywhere. So there are major number of choke points they'll face. This is where advantage India will come. And
यहाँ पर मैं कुछ आप लोगों को बताना चाहता हूँ कि चाइना क्या कर रहा है हमारे को काउंटर करने के लिए, जो हम लोग ये पार्टनरशिप में काम कर रहे हैं क्वाड वगैरह के। चाइना ने क्या किया है कि नॉर्दर्न एरिया में, नॉर्दर्न जो ईस्टर्न फ्रंट है उनका, वहाँ वो रशिया के साथ ज्वाइंट एक्सरसाइजेस कर रहा है। और जहाँ तक वेस्टर्न फ्रंट है, जो कि हमारे और ये आईओआर और वेस्टर्न फ्रंट का सवाल है, वहाँ वो पाकिस्तान के साथ ज्वाइंट एक्सरसाइजेस कर रहा है। तो वो भी कुछ कोशिश कर रहा है हमारे को रेस्पॉन्ड करने के लिए। China is also trying to do something, but not at the scale at which possibly India can achieve.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. That's great. Next slide. So, what are the military strategy options for India with all this? Main is from maritime operation, we now move to JADO, that is Joint All Domain Operation. This is what I talked about, whole of nation approach, and various countries will join us. The air forces and navies are joining. That's how we are doing this regular exercise with them to better the China to a large extent. Cyber operations will become the primacy. We'll have to do cyber operations, both defensive and offensive. And this is where the Navy is once again taken a lead. Large number of naval officers are now engaged into this. Space obviously will play a major role. Major concern for us is the quick operationalization of the Indian regional navigation satellite system. Because in the absence of our own navigation system, both our air assets as well as the naval assets are vulnerable. and they can be spoofed and they can go to a wrong destination. That is what is important. Last points I just want to cover: space enabled and space controlled air operations. Now this is also very important, which are happening. Now we come to the long range air mission also. Last point, once again I come to last point: deterrence of carrier killer DF-20. Now China has very strategically developed the DF-21 missile, which is itself named as the carrier killer, and that is now holding the US carrier forces beyond the 9-9. That is what is so funny. So their ranges are now making sure that this, because this is the only missile which has got a CEP, circular error problem, that means accuracy of up to about 20 meters, which is sufficient for to able to destroy a carrier, which is normally carriers of the size of 200 to 300 meters, 250 meters is the carrier size normally US carriers. So 20 meter CEP is very high accuracy. Most of the other missiles that the China has got, their CEPs are very large, up to 700 meters, because they were earlier designed to be ballistic nuclear tipped missiles. So their CEPs didn't matter. They were like area target missiles. Now for this, the moment DF-20 comes into play, the whole dimensions, whole dynamics have changed. And this is what the India has to worry about. As of now, we are out of the range of DF-21, and it is assessed that no country will allow the DF-21 deployment anywhere in their own country. This is yesterday, and that's why we are doing that diplomatic and military relation building with all the ASEAN countries as well as all the neighboring countries. And this is what happened. Now I come to the point, last point, which the generals have brought out, and this is with the what is happening in the Maldives. So the political situation changing is a major threat to us. That we have to keep going, and irrespective of what the political head in a particular country decides, our effort in trying to convince them towards at least being neutral must continue. Because this is a major threat which can develop on these zones once they turn towards the, like Sri Lanka, while allowed one of the naval ships, spy ship to come in, but it is very clear that it will not allow any military operations to take place from its zone, even from the hub and tota. They're very clear about it, and that's what the same. So same way at Maldives, our diplomatic efforts have to continue to make sure that no military operations are allowed of this type.
Air Commodore SP Singh, SP, there is this doubt हमारे आदमी, हमारे जो व्यूअर्स के दिमाग में होता है कि चाइना, म्यांमार कैसे चाइना को रोकेगा, श्रीलंका कैसे चाइना को रोकेगा, या मालदीव्स कैसे चाइना को रोकेगा इस तरह के वेपन सिस्टम्स को वहां डिप्लॉय करने के लिए. Is there an answer for that, if you have any?
Sir, yes, sir. The thing is, sir, what is happening, sir? If you see these countries, they're very small countries, and they get very easily intimidated by the large power like China. And China has doing a lot of investment, and now these countries need investment. So while they are allowing the investment and giving them promise, yes, we'll do it, but at stage comes because they also know dependence on India. So for them, idhar kuwa udhar khai. It's like I say like that. So they will try and play the balancing act throughout. They will not take sides. It is very clear, sir. Even I have been interacting with the MEA at the Secretary East level, who is responsible for all these nations on our this thing. Secretary East, I have met him so many times, and they are very clear. They have their own understanding and their own analysis that they will allow as long as the money flow is there, because these countries require money for their own development infrastructure. So on the various promises, they allow some kind of development, some kind of presence, but to the extent that it doesn't lead to a war fighting and them getting involved, embroiled into the war. Because the moment you allow, let's say they allow my aircraft to land and operate, they are part of my war. And then China has legitimate right to attack them. Similarly, the moment they allow China, then it's an open invitation for me to now start attacking them, which they don't want. And that is why. So they will play diplomatically game. All these countries, they will play.
So India will have to use its leverage and keep a very close watch on these countries which are vulnerable to getting intimidated or getting influenced by China. It's a very major threat, and I think we need to be careful about it.
Yes, and so we can't blame them, and we can't blame them because they are very small countries, and they have to survive. So for their survival, they have to keep doing yes sir to both sides. It is understood. India understands it very clearly, and they also know where India stands today.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, SP. I think that was a wonderful presentation. You did manage to cover it, of course, slightly a little more time,
Yes,
45
sir.
minutes. We, 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 we still have about 15, 16 minutes to
Yes,
go ahead with
yes,
questions. And so I'm not going to ask my questions because my questions will take you into a totally different, but I will try
sir.
squeeze in along with
Sir,
any of our audience's questions. So I'm
sir,
coming
sir.
first to the first question, which is there off the block is I will take only one of his questions. That is, okay, this one. It's challenging to predict future with certainty, but China likely to continue to be a major player in the global arena. Time to create credible deterrence and then cooperate on equal terms. Comments. How do
Yes,
we create
absolutely.
credible deterrence? See, earlier we have been talking of dissuasive deterrence. He is now
Yes.
talking of credible deterrence. So, how do you do that?
Sir, a very, very nice question. And like in my own presentation, I covered, if we understood clearly, we have done a kind of full SWOT analysis of China's threat, which the time frame it will develop and what China is doing. Once again, I want to just highlight China's major, if you see white papers, last three white papers, the major concentration is countering USA. And they are developing their capacity building is towards the USA. That the forces at USA that can bring to bear on them, and has positioned their forces in Japan, the Taiwan, as well as the South Korea region. Yes, they also are very conscious about the Indian Ocean region and what India dominates. So they are going to play it around. They are developing this capacity to counter. That's I said up to 2035. They are planning to have 6 carrier forces, so you can have at least 1 or 2 carrier battle groups always in the Indian Ocean region to dominate. That is the aim on the naval side. They also know on the Arunachal side they have a large number of airfields and the deployment of the missile force to dominate that zone. So they are going to do a two-prong attack. Maybe they'll include Pakistan to some extent, which nobody can predict as to how much of Pakistan will be able to do. But at least they'll be able to use their Godar airport. That is certain. Now, with this kind of thing, on a three-prong attack that they're planning to squeeze us, our own counter to create the deterrences, nuclear deterrence we already have, sir, which we are not talking about. We are not talking in this zone about nuclear. It is very well established, so there is nothing to much to do about it,
Yeah,
talk
we
about
will
it.
not discuss
It
that. We will not discuss that. That is
yeah.
understood that we do have the
So,
nuclear
so
aspect.
deterrence that we are now talking about the credible deterrence, like I covered, the the whole of nation approach to develop the ports, the way strengthen the navy, and the procurement that we are now going at the rate. See, we already have started procuring the Sea Guardian Reaper drone, which are going to come for both all the IF, Indian Navy, as well as the Indian Army. And the largest number is coming to Indian Navy. It is basically for same reason to keep the surveillance. We already have the PATI. We are doing the satellite surveillance. We are increasing all the credible requirements that create. And then the word Quad itself has become the major deterrence. And the military dimension of Quad, which is AUKUS, is also a deterrence for the China. So it is not that India alone is doing it. It is the combination of the various like-minded countries that are creating hurdles and the challenges for China at each of its steps. And that is how the deterrence is going to work. I don't think we'll be able to match China in equal terms at any given time, because China is way ahead of us in economy as well as the military prowess as of today, and will remain ahead of us because the China economy is not going to go down this thing. So even
So,
the growth rate that we have, we'll be able to devote only a limited portion of our economy towards the defense preparation, and we
so,
continue to be defensive, and that is what
so,
we are going to do.
so partnership is a key to our
That's
deterrence, and I think that we need to focus on. Quad and AUKUS are very important, and we should work upon that. Also, with the ASEAN countries, we'll have to work closely to ensure
true.
that there is some deterrence. I just want to lighten the mood of the people. General sir, ये क्या किया आपने धरती को ही उल्टा कर दिया midst of India Canada dispute, Russia Ukraine war, Israel Gaza conflict, धरती को उल्टा करें तो संसार में घोर संकट आ जाएगा। कभी कभी जेबी जेपी कभी कभी चीज को सही देखने के लिए खुद को उल्टा होना पड़ता है। तो इंडियन ओशन को अगर है तो हमेशा उल्टा देखिए।
बिल्कुल
इंडियन
शीर्ष
ओशन
आसन इज if I may add, sir, Sheesh Asana is one of the best exercise
बिल्कुल
to
बिल्कुल तो
to let your blood flow back to your brain. So it is important to do Sheesh Asana.
that's right. That's right. Let's go to this question. We'll be quick and not too much time. Our country is not expansionist. But our country's image as Gandhi, Santi Shanti type country emboldens our enemies to threaten our borders. They have high assurance of our pacifist nature. This is a comment. This image is changing. I think we are
Yes,
now in the last 10 to 11 years at least. We are creating an image of a hard power, and that is why people are not liking us.
yes,
Whether it is Canada, whether it is Gaza, or whether it is any other conflict in the world. I think we are taking position as per our interest.
yeah.
Or
So I may just add one small incident so it was very clear as to what India is today.
yeah.
In the Sudan, recent case when the Sudan evacuation we had to do. Now
Hmm.
Sudan, our people are really under threat. Even the embassy people are under threat, and we had to evacuate. So we used the strategic advantage of C-130. The aircraft landed at midnight hours on an abandoned airfield, abandoned, which didn't have any facility. There's no crash facility, no light landing facility, nothing was there, no refueling. And we landed our C-130, sanitized with the help of our special forces, sanitized the runway. Then our people went in and the aircraft took off. In total, 35 minutes, the entire operation was complete. It is as we good. It shook the entire world how we had done the operation under threat, under fire. So this is the capability today India has got, and we are very much capable of, and we don't go by that logic that is been told about.
We'll take the next question. Sorry, audience. I'm not taking all the questions. There are too many of them. But please like, subscribe, and watch our video. Our next video is going to be, next program is going to be with General Raj Shukla, and we will be talking about prognosis of Israel-Gaza war, and what is going to be the new emerging world order. The situation is changing. It is shifting from Ukraine to Gaza now. How will the world shape up? How will Middle East shape up? Please tune in on Tuesday, same time, 7 o'clock with General Raj Shukla. Okay. With that, we come to the next question, which is China's presence seen with our neighbors. Will India check her with a marine theater only? If not, our Air Force still capable of handling Indian Ocean, or we too have to expand having bases to check. Basically, he's asking the challenges for the Air Force in operating in the Indian Ocean. While it has more or less fine-tuned its operations along our land borders, but with the Indian Ocean region, how is the Air Force going to? And here I would like to tell the audience that China has done a very strange thing 3 4 days back. What they have done is they have shifted the Air Force resources now under the plan to respond to the threat of the East China Sea, South China Sea. So, अभी India क्या करेगा? What is the Indian response going to be?
So, as of now, as I covered in the presentation also, we have now started. There's hardly any now country left, major friendly country with which we are not doing air or naval exercise today. In fact, most of the air naval is also to operate in those zones. We have gone as far as Australia, where we done the exercise pitch black. So where total about 28 nations took air forces took part, and we have done the operation. We have seen how the Rafale was brought in from the France right up to India. We have done all the kind of operations which are required, including I'm not talking about fighter operation now. I'm also talking about the airlift operations. You look at any kind of the tragedy or human HADR mission required the world over. India has been the first. In fact, the vaccine diplomacy should show us the capability that we have. Today, we can huge amount of tonnage can be lifted by the Indian Air Force. We have the large capacity to lift our forces and deploy at short notice. So with this capacity, and we are doing regular exercises with various nations, moving our troops, moving our resources, and doing over the Indian Ocean and beyond. We don't want to go into the entire Pacific, so we are limiting ourselves to the Indian Ocean and a little bit of Indo-Pacific towards west. That is all. Otherwise, the main area of concern is this. So in this zone, there is no place left where the air reach is not there as of today. Right from I covered from end from African end to the Singapore end, we covered entire airspace now over the Indian Ocean, and that is our zone of influence and zone of requirement in the sea. So we are moving much faster than that. Yes, we need to pick up more assets. There is no doubt. We need to develop our own weapons, which now you see Atmanirbhar initiative has really gone very at high speed, and we are developing large number of weapons which are both deployable over sea and land. And these trials, Su-30s have already been the most successful aircraft on this, which the trials have done. We have large amount of weapons and large inventory of weapons which can be used for various tasks. And this is going to be a key area. So we have done that. And we are talking about the time frame of 2035. We'll be a force to reckon with. There is no doubt about it.
Okay, this question basically is not related to today's topic, but somewhere China Pak Nexus is always talked about. So you could respond in a very quick manner. I don't think Pakistan will be a threat unless it is a combined
Nothing.
operation by China and Pakistan. Even for those contingencies we have planned for, you
Yes.
could just comment on this.
So it is very clear, sir. It is very clear. The Indian Navy has very clearly defined now with the theater command, it will become much more easier. Otherwise, the Western theater command, Western Naval Command is looking after the entire Pakistan zone and all, and the threat is not one we can handle only with the Western Naval Command. The Eastern Naval Command and entire looking towards the Strait of Malacca and Chinese incursion there. That's how two carriers, one will remain with the Western, one will remain with the Naval and Eastern. And the third carrier, as and when it comes up, obviously will be the one which will be now in the servicing refit. And we also expect that by 2030-35, we'll also have the third carrier coming to us. So this and Pakistan Air Force also, sir, is now in bad shape because the China itself is not meeting its own ACA requirement. JF-17 supply has stopped. So the major F-16s are going to now come to the end of its life very soon. So the Chinese Air Force will have the Mirage 3, which are very, very old. They'll also vintage ACA become. JF-17 will not be in J5 and J10s. What number they'll have will reduce drastically. So that's why Pakistan has now got recently the drones, which they are also aware of it. Drone warfare is now going to be the main thing. So on those borders, drone warfare will take the primacy now, as we see in the emerging trends over the warfare that we see now. So
Okay,
Pakistan Air Force is not major worry for us.
okay. Brigadier Sivendra Singh has asked a question. Our discussion today mainly centered on Indo-China conventional warfare strength analysis. We must ensure strength advantage in current flashpoints across Indo-China land border. It's a comment you can. It's a given actually. We
It's a
have
given.
Yeah, we have to take care of the entire threat to India, which is both land centric or and maritime centric. But आज का discussion क्योंकि it was focused on a maritime zone, so that is why we were focusing on this side. Otherwise, we cannot look at anything in isolation.
Yes, just one line, sir, if I can add.
Yeah,
Indo-Pacific region, the deployment of the Indian Air Force and the forces is not at the cost of the land forces support that is required in the northern border. It is not at that cost. It has been all divided, set, seven, put in that manner that we are able to handle both.
okay.
Absolutely.
So we will take two more questions because the questions are pouring in, and
Yes,
I want everyone to be given a chance who has asked a question. So
absolutely, absolutely. No,
there are multiple questions, but we will take this one. Are we still developing technology for Navy? That is why there is no mass investment in industrial infrastructure and ship orders. Uh,
I actually, sir, I would not like to dwell on the domain. Actually, it's going into the little bit of confidential domain.
yeah.
Suffice to say that, in fact, I must just tell one sentence is that in the technology development, Navy is now leading everyone. I think if that conveys the meaning, we will understand. Even
I mean,
faster than the Air Force. Even
see,
faster than the Air Force.
everything is dependent on budget and financing and planning. I think Navy is well ahead of all the three services,
Yes,
and
well,
it is well of course that much is good enough for you to understand. We will go to Mr. Sunil Pant, who is a senior uh, economic advisor to government of Afghanistan, Sri Lanka.
oh, well, excellent.
He's an economist. He has asked a question. The next major conflict with China may be in the realms of cyberspace and electronic areas. Where do we stand?
Very, very
Basically,
pertinent question, sir. Absolutely
Niche
pertinent.
technology.
I think he's hit the nail on head. Mr. Sunil Panda hit the nail on head. This is exactly what is going to happen, sir. Cyberspace and electronic warfare is going to be the primacy more than even the air power or the naval power. And China is
Correct.
known for this. And sir, we are, to be very honest, we are much behind. And we need
Yes.
really to develop much more. We are making effort, there's no doubt about it, but we are behind. That is the thing, if I just say. We are much short of the achievement, the ability that you should have.
Okay. Quick responses to three short questions. We will not take any more questions because we
Yes,
already reached
sir.
1 hour
Sir.
deadline. One line answer. What is the threat from PLA rocket force West Command?
No major threats. I've done a full study. I submitted to Vice Chief of the Air Staff. Anybody wants, I'll share with them, sir. My email ID I'll share. It can be shared. No issues.
Okay.
No major
Uh,
threats.
Ask, can Indian Air Force Rafale be modified to land on
No, sir.
Indian
No.
Navy
No, sir.
aircraft
Not can be ordered. It is specific design and it has to
carrier?
be naval version totally different.
Okay. Quick response from Indus. What percentage of Air Force assets, in your opinion, should be dedicated to tackle the new threats emerging in South, which was earlier not existing at all?
So again, we are
Basically,
coming to conventional domain.
uh,
Sufficient to suffice to say that Air Force has already done that. We have dedicated certain amount of assets, whether it's the fighter, helicopters, transport, UAVs, or the UCAS, or the radars, or everything. All assets have been earmarked for the IOR threat, catering for the northern and the western threat. That has already been done, and obviously that's why the new procurements are taking place so that we can augment this. But as of now, sufficient resources have been earmarked. That is all I can tell you.
okay, and we will take the last question because it is pertaining to your domain. So I'm taking this
Yes, yes,
question.
any,
Uh,
yes.
the quoted cost for upgrading 150 230 jets exceeds the price of purchasing 60 new Rafale fighter jets. Will the upgraded Su-30 surpass the capabilities of the Rafale? And basically a question which is asking in terms of cost benefit analysis.
Sir, let me just clarify. People do understand these aircrafts as a different names and all that they give. Su-30 and Rafale, both are air dominant fighters. Both are capable of large number of air operations. There are certain specific operations for which Rafale has been bought, and for that, the number of aircraft that we have actually as of today are sufficient. We don't need because Su-30 is able to, and with the upgrade Su-30, the additional capability that will come. See, number will always matter. Even with the capability, you still need number, and that number will always overweigh on the thing. So that even though the cost is a little higher, it is worth doing 150 Su-30 than buying 60 new Rafale. So as of now, Rafale is sufficient. One more squadron, I think, will be the best that we need to cater for the threat up to 2030. But Su-30 number must increase. That is very important.
Okay, just a comment. We will not
Yes,
talk about it. For engaging China in current times should center on diplomacy and economic parity. How do we do this? I think we are already doing the number of actions in the diplomatic domain. As you can see, Jaishankar full throttle.
yes.
As far as economy is concerned, we are trying to diversify from China, but it's not easy. चाइना से डाइवर्सिफाई करना आसान नहीं है. काफ़ी रॉ मटेरियल लेने पड़ रहे हैं. बड़ी कोशिश के बाद भी हम आई थिंक वी आर एट द सेम ट्रेड लेवल $135 billion. It's huge. It's actually increased from 100 billion to 135 billion. We leave
Yes.
it at that. We have come to the end. We are already 1 hour 3 minutes. As promised, I am leaving you sharp at 8:03. We will be ending our discussion here. Thank you, viewers. Please watch, subscribe, like our video, and encourage us. Otherwise, we will remain disheartened. We want this membership of Stripe to increase very quickly. With that, thank you.